Have you ever asked a simple question and got hit with an hour-long explanation? Like you asked, how do I turn it on? But the response was, well, first you need to understand the quantum mechanics of energy formation. Now that's how I feel when I listen to Jordan Peterson talk about the religion of peace.
All my Muslim listeners, watchers, and readers.
It always involves a long string of words and hand gestures as effective as yelling at a video game NPC.
Shiites, find a Sunni pen pal. Sunnis, do the same.
You serious?
And make no mistake, I love Jordan Peterson. I love him as much as my internet loves me when I'm doing nothing important. And just like my internet, Jordan has failed me in the crucial matter of Islam.
It is time for those of you in the Muslim world to stop fighting among yourselves, you Shiites and Sunnis.
But it's not just me. He recently posted one of such conversations on his YouTube, and boy, I can taste the frustration in the comment section. It tastes like bitter cola soaked in bitter leaf juice.
Nice.
Many suggested that he should discuss this with people like David Wood, but I don't think that's Jordan Peterson's problem. He has spoken with Hayyan Hassi Ali and Musab Hassan Youssef, yet his understanding of Islam is still as lofty as Neil deGrasse Tyson's understanding of gender.
Today I feel 80% female, 20% male. I'm gonna put on makeup.
And like Neil, Jordan has employed the dumbest rhetoric in expressing his devout ignorance on Islam.
What do you mean do? What do you mean you? What do you mean believe? And what do you mean God?
But though Jordan's recent upload on Islam is as flawed as Muhammad's moral compass, it had some segments that I deeply appreciate and statements that are shockingly accurate and noteworthy. Still, the podcast episode I'm referring to had Islamists versus Islam boldly written on the YouTube thumbnail. I mean, that's in a strong competition with George Bush's Islam is peace statement after 9/11. At this point, I won't be shocked if Jordan does a podcast with Terrence Howard explaining the serious conflict between 6 and half a dozen. Anything to sidestep calling a spade. But what makes it frustrating is Jordan isn't operating with the wisdom of a comedian obsessed with aliens, nor is his guest a washed-up Hollywood star turned professor in physics and mathematics. This is a conversation between a doctor in psychology and a former US senator involved in many peace talks with Muslim presidents. These people should be able to articulate the subject of Islam, but no, they spent an hour and a half discussing the common ground between the Bible and the Quran.
Maybe the Muslims, Christians, and Jews have more in common than we might think. Commonalities
between the Quran and the Injil. There are more dynamic synergies between the Quran and the Bible.
To be fair, Jordan kept interfering with his annoying obsession with the Abraham Accords.
I was stunned, first of all, that the Abraham Accords were ever signed.
But before I attack the non-existent common ground these men found between the Bible and the Quran, here's what they said that is true and should guide everyone in their dealings with the Muslim world.
What is a missing dimension in statecraft, not speaking about religion or even spirituality, since especially Muslims are deeply spiritual people.
Granted, I have a bone to pick with how he phrased that, and I won't call Muslims spiritual people. Religious is a better word, but the idea is true. There is a refusal to talk about religion when it comes to Muslims. The media is the biggest culprit, as combating Islamophobia has become a journalistic principle. Even in reporting on conflicts clearly motivated by Islam, they will refuse to discuss the religious aspect. When a bunch of Islamists attack a village in Nigeria, the media will only mention religion in passing, but devote a paragraph to showing the connection between climate change and a broken moral compass.
Climate change has made the situation worse.
And now we learn that this same approach is used in diplomatic talks with Muslim leaders overseeing genocide, ethnic cleansing, and the marginalization of minorities in their Sharia-compliant hellscape. But Jordan's guest claimed to have an alternative approach. Spoiler alert, his approach is spending long hours with genocidal maniacs discussing common grounds between the Bible and the Quran.
For example, we went to see Omar al-Bashir of the Sudan in the mid-2000s. We spent 2.5 hours again about the crucifixion and what the Quran says and what about Son of God. And here's the common ground. You could build with Gaddafi, Omar al-Bashir, or your neighbor.
I'm about to dunk on this ridiculous idea harder than LeBron James could ever. But what is this common ground that this man keeps talking about? Let's follow him step by step as he makes his case for it.
So I asked my pastor, what is begotten in Aramaic? And began learning Arabic at some level and comparing the begottenness of Jesus in the Quran and the begottenness of Jesus, say in Matthew 1.
So he wanted to understand the Aramaic meaning of the word begotten as used in Matthew and Luke, two gospels originally written in Greek. But you know what? I'll let it slide. There are bigger fish to fry.
And discovered something quite fascinating, that the same word the Quran uses, walid, for Jesus was not walid or begotten, and this may seem a little technical, but it's very powerful. It's a male verb action, meaning sexually. So, of course, no Christian believes God had sex with Mary, but that's what many Muslims believe, Christians believe, because we say Jesus was begotten the same way as we were begotten.
Do they believe that because of some Arabic mumbo-jumbo, or because that's what the Quran tells them? Just read Surah 19, from verse 27. It narrates the story of Mary giving birth without being married and her community accusing her of fornication. But not the Mary you know. This is Mary, the sister of Aaron. As a defense, this Mary pointed to her baby, and her newborn began to speak, calling himself Allah's servant with a book. Verse 34 revealed that this baby is Jesus, the son of Mary, the sister of Aaron, of course. Then verse 35 says, it is not befitting for Allah that he should beget a son. When he determines a matter, he only says be, and it is. This was said right after discussing the birth of Jesus. The Quran not only misconstrues the word begotten as used in the scriptures, but also mistakes Mary, the mother of Jesus, for Miriam, the sister of Aaron. But it brings up the subject again in Quran 19 verse 88 to 92. They say the most merciful has taken for himself a son. You have done an atrocious thing. The heavens almost ruptured therefrom, and the earth splits open, and the mountains collapse in devastation, that they attribute to the most merciful a son. So according to the Quran, Christians make the atrocious claim of attributing a son to God, a claim that almost ruptures the heavens and splits the earth. But it doesn't stop there. Quran 4 verse 171. O people of the scriptures, do not commit excess in your religion or say about Allah except the truth. The Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, was but a messenger of Allah and his word, which he directed to Mary, and a soul created at a command from him. So believe in Allah and his messengers, and don't say three. Desist. It is better for you. Indeed, Allah is but one. Exalted is he above having a son. Again, here we see the Quran directly addressing Christians, accusing us of believing in three gods, and it denounces the claim that God has a son. But it still doesn't stop there. Quran 6 verse 101, he is the originator of the heavens and the earth. How could he have a son when he does not have a companion? And he created all things, and he is of all things knowing. The Quran is here suggesting that God can only have a son with the help of a sex partner. So this is not the case of Muslims misunderstanding what Christians are claiming. This is the case of the Quran leading Muslims to misunderstand what Christians are saying. The problem is from the Quran, but the Jordan's guests come to this logical conclusion.
So the point is, the way Jesus was begotten in the Bible and in the Quran is identical.
Of course, that's the conclusion. Flesh and blood did not reveal this to him. This is what you get from a spirit obsessed with finding common ground where none exists. He has to resort to the oldest trick in the book. If you can't find it, manufacture it. His attempt is quite interesting though, and I want to hear more. How does he go around Quran 9 verse 30? There, the Quran not only accuses Christians of calling Jesus God's begotten son, it also accuses the Jews of calling Ezra the son of God. That's probably in the Talmud, right? Wrong. This is the supposed common ground between the Bible and the Quran. Keep in mind that this genius has written a book about this.
How much of that is outlined in your 2008 book?
Most of it, but not all of it. Well, I'm ready to do a trilogy of a new book called At War with Peace.
Not just that, he has given lectures in Oxford on this.
I was in Oxford University lecturing to people way above my pay grade.
Jordan Peterson was so impressed by his brilliance that he offered the man a teaching role at Peterson Academy.
Could you do a course for Peterson Academy on that?
It would be an honor.
Common ground between Islam, Christianity, and Judaism.
Yes.
That would be a wonderful course. And it sounds like you've done a tremendous amount of background work preparing for that. And so that would be a course I'd want to take.
What a great way to promote this astounding citadel of learning. That's $399 US well spent. Look, Jordan Peterson is brilliant and an intellectual powerhouse, and his guest is not so bad either. So it is sad to see the ridiculousness on display when they discuss Islam. And I get it. It is hard for some people to accept the reality of Islam, to see that their kind Muslim neighbor believes in an ideology worse than Nazism, to realize that 1.9 billion people worship such a deity. But the failure to realize the pervasive nature of Islam doesn't make it any less so. And the earlier men like this accept this, the better. The world can't afford to watch them play dumb. It is not a luxury that that some of us can afford. Jordan Peterson may also want to avoid conversations on the religion of peace.
Find a Sunni pen pal.
It makes him sound like the thing he claims to dread the most.
What is most important to you in life?
Not being stupid.
How would your life
Not making foolish mistakes. Not being incautious. Yeah.
That's tough on yourself.